and welcome to History on Blast, episode 34. Pass me a drink? In today's episode, we're going to be putting the Soviet Union on blast for drinking their entire national reserve of vodka in 22 hours. But first, this month in history. On January 16th, 1547, Ivan the Terrible was officially crowned the first Russian Tsar. He had already been ruling Russia since 1533, and his reign would last until 1584, meaning he ruled for a combined 51 years. He reformed the legal code, but he also put over 3,000 people to death and killed his own son in a fit of rage. So, you win some, you lose some, I guess.
Hello, listeners. I'm Kay, a musical theater nerd.
And I'm Warren. I'm musically challenged.
We host a podcast every Wednesday called Tone Deaf, a theater nerd's guide for their musically challenged spouse. Join us as I introduce Warren to musicals he's never seen and test his knowledge about musical theater.
You have to have knowledge before you can be tested.
Well, you've come a long way, Warren. Now you know that Andrew Lloyd Webber created Cats and not West Side Story.
Is that the show with the Cobras?
And we still have a ways to go.
Join us every Wednesday for Tone Deaf.
Alright, so first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about vodka. Vodka is a clear distilled alcohol with an origin in Russia and Poland and sort of that whole Eastern European area, although the first actual historical use of the word vodka, despite what you might think, was actually in Polish records, not Russian. However, most people, when they think of vodka, associate it very strongly with Russia. It is an alcohol composed entirely of water and ethanol, with periodically flavorings or other additives. It is distilled from cereal grains or potatoes that have been fermented. And as of the 1890s, it was codified that vodka must have a minimum of 40% alcohol by volume, which in the US system would be 80 proof. Anything less than that, and it is not technically, by definition, a vodka, although the European Union accepts 37.5% as the minimum percent alcohol by volume for a vodka. Another important thing to note is that in 1914, prohibition went into effect in the then Russian Empire, which ended in 1925, after they had already become the Soviet Union. There was a push in the Soviet Union for this prohibition or dry laws as a means of curbing alcohol consumption because they believed that alcoholism was a disease of capitalism. Which, looking at our own attempts at prohibition over here in the capitalist United States, it didn't work here either, so I don't think we can pin alcohol on communists or capitalists. We're just all bad at it. But Lenin's policies were very aggressively reversed when Stalin took control of the Soviet Union. In fact, vodka was considered an important part of not only the national production, but also the literal national budget depended on this production of vodka because, remembering that this is the Soviet Union, all of the vodka production was owned by the state, by the Communist Party. So the sales of vodka and the production of vodka and the export and the internal sales made up a fifth of the national budget. That is 20% 20% of the national budget of the Soviet Union was built on the back of vodka, which really kind of explains a lot when you think about it. And this includes during the famine years in 1931 and 1932. They were still setting aside potatoes during a famine to make vodka. The sound you hear in the background is Ireland crying in the corner. Vodka was actually so important as part of this budget that it was considered an extremely important part of the national defense strategy during the war with Germany. Which is where we get to the day that the Soviet Union ran out of vodka. It's 1:10 a.m., May 9th, 1945. On May 7th, Germany had officially surrendered to the Allies in World War II. But the broadcast didn't make it to the Soviet Union until now, 1:10 a.m. Yuri Levitan, the chief announcer of Radio Moscow, comes on to broadcast the news to the Soviet people that the Germans have officially surrendered, that Hitler himself is dead. And rather than wait for any sort of official announcement from the state, or even wait until morning, or apparently even wait long enough to put on some real clothing, the people of Moscow rush out into the streets in their pajamas with whatever drink they could find. And they just partied. It took, from that moment, 22 hours before there was an official address from Stalin to the Soviet people. By this official address, there was no more vodka left in the entire Soviet Union. They had drank the entire national reserve of vodka. It was actually to the point that reporters coming into Moscow on the 10th were noted as saying that it was really good they'd picked up a liter of vodka at the train station because you couldn't buy any because there just wasn't any. There was literally no vodka left. Although really, who can blame them? So that's just about going to do it for this first episode of a brand new year. Sorry for disappearing for a couple of months there. Things got a bit hectic, but I've worked out a new schedule for my actual recording and research. I also got a new microphone. I don't know if it's helped the audio quality at all, but hopefully it has. So, with the new recording and research schedule and everything else that I've got going on, hopefully things have gotten back to the point where I will be at an every other week uploading schedule. I'm trying to get some stuff done early, ahead of time. As always, I would like to thank Defy Them All for the use of their song, The Keeper of Histories, for the intro and outro of our program. I'd like to remind you all that we have a Facebook group that you can join if you want to come share history memes, discuss upcoming topics, suggest episode ideas, anything at all. Even if you want to just come talk about how awful Thomas Edison was as a human being, honestly, we do that a lot, and I'm really into it. So, if you've got any questions, comments, feedback, anything at all, you can contact me at historyonblast@gmail.com or at historyonblast on Twitter. And thank you for listening.